When you see the same simplistic argument run across multiple media platforms, you may have found a propaganda unit, or the result of its work. This was most evident during the early days of the COVID scare, as media, politicians, bureaucrats and complicit medical professionals read scripts of astonishing simplicity and dubious credibility. How did they all come to the same conclusion? We now know outfits like the Trusted News Initiative helped. It even scooped up our ABC. These efforts vary widely in their sophistication depending on the audience. The Mayor of the Blue Mountains, Mark Greenhill, appears to be aiming at a group of very limited sophistication. I'll make my case, but first I want to thank the Mayor, or Captain Fear as I know him, for his assistance through such open displays of division, deceit and duplicity. Here we have a post from his Facebook page. People who joined it showed no willingness to question or challenge his savage assessment of local residents who held a different worldview. To challenge him is to find yourself blocked and evidence of any opposition erased. So we have a world where everyone agrees with the great man. In this propaganda piece, he starts by talking about the far right. Who are they? This is an imaginary group the Mayor has subjected to public kickings with the assistance of our local newspaper. In the first line, we learn that these people are not an homogeneous group, and in the second line we learn that they are. They are unified by a commitment to reject facts or an inability to process complex ideas. His imaginary enemy is made up of very stupid people, unlike his adoring Facebook audience. Captain Fear then offers a sermon on the complexity of life, science and government. Thank goodness we have this master interpreter. He goes on to explain that people who question any aspect of an authoritarian vaccine program lack subtlety. This is in direct contrast to my experience. In fact, among those who question the vaccine agenda, there are widely varying opinions. This has been one of the problems in addressing government overreach. Numerous false narratives have been promulgated and continue to be pushed by official sources that have fractured this supposedly homogeneous enemy into warring groups. Social media has also played an important role here. Next, if you don't hate the anti-vaxxers, he entices you to turn on the sovereign citizens. Here we have an astounding statement. Quote, sovereign citizens seek to explain away lives they find unsatisfying by blaming conspiracies, secret world governments and the deep state, none of which is real. Not having any idea what a sovereign citizen is part of the charm of the Mayor's assertion. The less clear the definition is, the easier it is to apply to anyone with whom you disagree or have a grievance. The conspiracies he denies are more readily described. They are the ones he is actively working to implement through counsel. He then gives his readers counselling on the complexity of life, and his imaginary enemy is accused of cherry-picking imaginary information. We might pick a few cherries, but his bounteous harvest is a divided community that becomes more divided by the day. We are then told that his imaginary Nazis have stolen our imaginary grandparents' flag, which is an imaginary and offensive abomination, as opposed to a welcome abomination. In part 2 of this masterpiece of exclusion dressed up as inclusion, the Mayor celebrates his obsession with gender and makes a gratuitous statement about people who use race to divide us. Do we have a race problem? Certainly not in my experience of the Blue Mountains, so why is he fueling a problem that does not exist? I can answer that one, because he wants to make mischief, because he sees his job as one of dividing us. Who is he working for? At the end we hear what a clever boy our Mayor is, and how he stands against hatred, all the while stoking it. We hear how he stood up to a fringe group. He stood up to nothing. What he did was disgraceful. He tried to prevent people from telling their own and their family stories of vaccine injury and death. He should pay a price for this deceit. This mayor has divided our community in a way I did not imagine was possible, has emboldened those who agree with him to attack those who don't, all the while evading all accountability. He is a coward and a fraud. See a link below to correspondence sent to him early in the pandemic calling for him to justify his extreme pro-vaccine stance. Here we see how inclusive and generous the mayor's supporters are. Can there be a better example of sycophantic slop in response to Captain Fear's puerile burbling? That Captain Fear title is well earned. Central to this game is the phantom of imminent danger. That danger was everywhere during COVID. No one was safe. There are now new dangers. They are his Nazis, sovereign citizens, white supremacists, racists, cookers, right-wing extremists and ratbags, who you once thought were your family, friends and neighbours. Gee, Mark, all I did was choose not to take a dangerous and untested vaccine. I was once a person of the left. Am I really the one who has changed, or has the world moved around me? Some of the people whose quotes appear on the screen, I know. They should be ashamed of themselves. Now we move on to a Greenhill Facebook post from last Wednesday with a focus on immigration. Here he shows more of his renowned subtlety in referring to these marches. Those who attended appear to meet his definition of homogenous too. Then he tells us about the extraordinary number of Australians born overseas, but gets his numbers wrong. As of June 24, that number is 8.6 million people, or 31.5%. I bring this up not to cause alarm, but to emphasise how remarkably cohesive social interaction is in Australia. Why would anyone want to portray it otherwise, as the mayor does with these marches? When a large number of Australians are saying something is wrong, why does the mayor reach for a laminated and well-used race card? Captain Fear then tells us how immigration is making us wealthier and how it will boost our GDP by 0.5 to 1% a year up until 2050. This is a commonly used economist's fraud. I suspect one of the things Australians were marching about yesterday was the loss of real per capita household disposable income. This fell by 8% over the 2 years leading up to March 2024 and is the highest fall among developed countries in the OECD. You must also be excited about the Australian Government's Centre for Population report and its plans to bring in around 340,000 people a year over the next 40 years. The report describes adding 13.5 million or 50% to the population by 2065. Nothing to discuss here, and if you insist on it, our mayor will happily call you a racist if you are lucky. If you are less than lucky, the Blue Mountains Gazette, our local propagandist rag, will run a feature allowing the mayor to attack you. Does anyone want to talk about housing? Not our mayor. He is quick to tell us it's not his or his party's fault, while clamouring for every petty award or self-serving publicity he can put his name to. Greenhill then appears to misuse Scanlon's Mapping Social Cohesion report from 2023, referenced in his post. The report states, 87% of people at least agree, if not strongly agree, that maintaining the Australian way of life and culture is important. Now, we might spend a little time discussing what maintaining the Australian way of life is, but this report seems to suggest it is something that exists, and is something that existed prior to the last 5 years, and is not necessarily something that immigrants bring with them. It may even be the reason they wanted to come. Anyone who has not seen our way of life under threat in the last 5 years is very good at doing exactly what they are told to do, and will require little of the behaviour modification planned for the rest of us. Have you heard of the Internet of Behaviours? No? Then you can look forward to a big surprise. I still recall New South Wales Deputy Commissioner of Police, Gary Warboys, telling us at the height of the pandemic that our neighbours would dob us in if we left our houses more than once a day during the lockdown. Back to the Scanlon report. I couldn't find an exact quote to match the mayor's meticulous cherry-picking harvest. What I did find was this quote. Among those who believe the migrant intake is too high, 87% agree that people born overseas are just as likely to be good citizens as Australian-born people. And 33% of people think the number of immigrants accepted into Australia at present is too high. Informed of this, the mayor can sprinkle his attacks and his wisdom across a full third of the population. Having taken his societal log splitter to the local community cohesion in the last week, the mayor of exclusion invites us to celebrate his version of diversity. Need I say more?